I'd like to call the regular meeting of September 23rd, 2013 to order at 6:02 p.m., 6:03. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kudrick?
Present.
Ms. Bowles?
Here.
Mrs. Kraut?
Here.
Mr. Thied?
Present.
Ms. Funderburg present. Ms. Beard?
Here.
Ms. Buckley is excused.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to start out and welcome everybody to our meeting. If you want to make any comments, we're only going to take them from the microphone during the comment period. So please fill out a form in the back and bring it up here to the front, and we'll make sure that we call you up for comment.
Madam Chair, can you make a reminder that they turn their cell phones off?
Oh, as Mr. Kudrick requested, make sure your phones are on silent, please. The next item on the agenda is consent agenda. I have a request to remove item B for discussion. Item A, approval. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under the report of the superintendent portion of the agenda. I have one request for an item under B, so we're going to remove item B from the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'd like to have item C split up into two different parts, please.
Support.
Split into two?
I mean, under the report of the superintendent.
I think it is split.
There are two motions.
There are two motions.
The way they've got it listed as one, that's why I just want to
Yeah.
make sure.
Okay.
We'll definitely budget.
All right, on item A, under the consent agenda, approval to approve the minutes of the Board of Education of the regular meeting of August 26, 2013, special meeting of September 4th, 2013, and regular meeting of September 9th, 2013. Item C, approval to approve the bills of payment as submitted by Paula Daniels, Superintendent, in the amount of $2,842,591.72. I have a motion for approval of items A and C, please.
Madam Chair, I make a motion we approve the agenda as presented with item B removed.
Support.
Motion made by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Mrs. Kraut. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Okay, so the first item then under the superintendent's agenda would be the item B, and I believe Mrs. Bowles had a question about the shared time teachers.
You beat me to.
I just wanted to find out, can someone be so kind to explain to me a little bit about the shared time Spanish teacher position? Because I was under the impression that we had decided to eliminate the elementary Spanish teacher position.
Madam President, may I address? Ms. Bowles, the share time position is not for Romulus Community Schools programs. Share time is an allowable program for parochial or non-public schools that allows us to provide certified staff into those classrooms. We receive the FTE through the state for that portion of those students. We provide the staffing, and then we can also count the FTE values. So the Spanish position that you're referring to here is not for Romulus Community School students.
Okay, thank you.
Would that be the other shared time teachers also?
That's correct. Whenever you see a shared time teacher, that one of the rules, as a board, we have to hire our teachers. Our teachers have to be, hired through the district, they have to be paid through the district. And the same is true for shared time teachers. These are teachers that are not under our Romulus Community Schools contract. We have an agreement with the REA that allows us to bring these teachers in. And the board made this decision last year to go under contract with Jack Pilon, who operates on our behalf. So he goes out and seeks these opportunities within parochial schools. And then we're the fiscal agent, and we're also the hiring agent for those. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Madam Chair, if it's all right with you, if I could address Ms. Peck, could you possibly share what, some of the questions that I asked about that, like what the revenue that we are actually going to generate?
I can. So last year we had, wait, let me find it. Oh, here it is. So last year we had, in the fall, about 34 FTE that came in from the shared time program. And understand that the FTE isn't 34 whole students, it's bits and pieces of those students. So you kind of add them up for how much time they spend in that classroom with one of our shared time teachers. It was about 34 in the fall, or in the winter, that number went up to 44. So we were able to grow that program out a little bit. This year in our budget, the budget that you're going to be voting on later tonight, includes 40 FTEs through the shared time program. So to answer Mr. Kudrick's question, the anticipated revenue that we'll be generating as a result of this partnership with Mr. Pilon and the Romulus Education Association is about $170,000. The cost for us is about $112,000. We anticipate receiving FTEs valuing about $280,000, so the difference is $167,000. That money goes directly into our general fund to pay for programs for our community students.
Okay.
Can I now have a motion then to approve?
Can they
Item B?
explain, can they explain the secretary, the substitute secretary?
Oh, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's $840 more there. 840,
Which item is that?
46.
That's still in B.
It's after
Substitute
the
for
part-time,
GSRP.
after the shared time Spanish
Oh,
teacher.
okay. That's a teacher aide, substitute teacher aide?
No, the
No,
secretary.
substitute
It comes
secretary.
after shared time music
The
teacher,
music
then it
teacher.
says substitute secretary.
That's for GSRP as well. GSRP is the Great Start Readiness Program. That's another grant-funded program, and we also hire all of those employees direct as well. They're paid for through a grant. Normally, all of our subs go through EduStaff, but in this case, all of those staff are paid for under the GSRP grant, and they are employed through Romulus Community Schools.
I thought there was another one in there, actually.
Now, are these, the 40 FTEs, were these included in last week's meeting that we knew about or not?
No.
So they're,
These are additional FTE that as Dr. Daniels, Mike, and I worked over the weekend on the new budget and the deficit elimination plan,
Okay, hold on.
we discovered that we didn't include those FTE into our count. So they are now part of our revised budget in depth.
so that took, was it last week we were at 2.8, was on the DEP? What was that figure we were
For the
hanging
cost
around
of
last week?
right in there for the,
So how did that affect that number?
Well, I think it would be hard to say how that specific one, obviously, the revenue increased, the expense was already in there, so that reduced that number that we had to get to. But there were several other things that were included in the
Oh, right,
yeah.
revision-wise.
revision-wise.
We
So
kicked up.
that was one of the
Those
pieces that
students.
we included in there, so that we made sure that that was included in our revenue as well as our expenses.
That substitute secretary that you're saying for GSRP, that's Miss Knight, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's what was throwing me off. Okay.
You know what? I'm going to back that up a minute. Ms. Knight, and I have another secretary that's coming up before you. You guys just don't have it yet. I am so sorry. Ms. Knight is, she's a retired teacher from Romulus Community, or I'm sorry, Ms. Knight's here. She's a retired secretary from Romulus Community Schools. And because she's retired, she's already drawing her retirement from the system. It's cheaper for us to hire her direct because we don't need to pay the MIPSR's costs on her, and we don't need to pay the EduStaff percentage. So it's cheaper for us to bring that person on and pay them direct, even though they're substituting. And I apologize
So
for
what
that.
position is she going to be holding then?
She's just a sub. She's a sub-secretary. Right now, she's done some substituting in our transportation department. that's where she came from. That's what she's most familiar with.
I've got that one. So 84, 77.
Okay, do I have a motion then to approve Section B? The personnel actions is submitted by Rebecca Peck, Director of Human Resources.
I'll make a motion that we accept Section B of the consent agenda.
Let me finish reading it here. I have a motion by Mr. Kudrick to approve the personnel actions as submitted by Rebecca Peck, Director of Human Resources, for the employment of a shared time Spanish teacher, shared time art teacher, shared time music teacher, substitute secretary, GSRP substitute teacher, GSRP substitute teacher aide, recalls, special education student aide, 2 bus drivers, kindergarten teacher at Hale Creek Elementary, kindergarten teacher at Romulus Elementary, kindergarten teacher at Wick Elementary, custodian A, resignations, bus driver, a shared time teacher, and a special education aide. Motion made by Mr. Kudrick. I need a second.
Support.
Motion made by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Mrs. Kraut. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item B passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is report of the superintendent.
Good e-
Dr. Daniel.
Good evening, everyone. Last year, we had an opportunity to participate in a program sponsored by the Michigan School Board Association on their Education Excellence Award. And we were very pleased to have been able to receive an award on behalf of our program, Camp Learn a Lot. And this evening is Travis here? Come on up. SETSEG provides, gives out an award to those districts and who are winners of the Excellence Awards. And this evening, we have a special presentation. Earlier, the little plaque that you see here is one of the portions of the award that was received. And would you like to share the rest? See it?
Thank you for having me.
It's the mic.
Yeah, make sure the mic's on.
How's that?
That's
Yep.
beautiful.
All right, thank you for having me, everybody. As Dr. Daniel said, my name's Travis Van Tegum. I'm with a group called SETSEG, and we were actually started back in the 70s by the Association of School Boards. We still act as an arm of the Association of School Boards, and back in 1994, we partnered with the Association of School Boards to try and recognize some of the great things that happen in education. As we all know,
You want to pull that out? You can.
Yeah, you can take
You can
that
hold
on
it.
stand.
There you go.
as we all know, there's so much negativity in our media these days seems to be focused on all of the drama and the bad things going on, and I think seldom it's recognized the positive things that are happening in education. So we've chosen to seek out and honor those groups who, despite the ongoing financial pressures that we're all facing in school districts, that continue to persevere and rise above and beyond by creating these great programs. A lot of them are homegrown, and it's my pleasure tonight to present the district with an award for the 2013 Educational Excellence Award for Camp Learn a Lot. And I believe someone's going to talk a little bit about it, but I think one of the neatest things about it is we all like to recognize our athletics, and we have big signs posted about our state champions and our district champions and everything else, but I think we forget about the education component, which is really what we're all about at the grassroots of everything. So I think Romulus and Camp Learn a Lot should really be proud of this achievement. We have over 200 submissions every year for this award, and to be recognized as one of 27 of the top programs in the state of Michigan is really truly an honor and a credit to the school district and some of the things that are going on there. So congratulations, Romulus.
And you may have seen some of these signs around because Romulus has been fortunate enough to have received it over the past. But that's going to be, we're going to mount that up, so yay, Romulus. And what we're going to have a presentation this evening. We were honored for last year's Camp Learn a Lot. Well, we've expanded it a little bit, and we had Camp Learn a Lot again this year with a special focus. And we have some of our students and some of those who worked with the program. And Mrs. McAnally was our head counselor this year. And so they're going to share from Camp Learn a Lot and our science focus this year.
Am I on? I'm on. First, to tell you a little bit about Camp Learn a Lot. Summer school's always had a negative connotation with it, that I was behind, I had to catch up, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do during the school year. But doing Camp Learn a Lot, what we wanted to do was extend the school year for the students, for all students, not just those behind, but to enrich all of their lives. So we decided the best way to do it was to use a camp theme. And then this year we did science as our focus. We had, I'm going to use my cheat notes because I don't remember much anymore. There were 343 students enrolled, and out of those 343 students, 75 of them had perfect attendance. They did not miss a day. So that's excellent. The camp went from July 15th to August 15th, 4 days a week from 8:30 until 2, and the students received a free breakfast and also a free lunch from the United Dairy Fund scholarship and grant there. We also were able to employ 28 of our high school students who work the camp as counselors, but their main focus was to work on sight words so that all of the kids, when they were done with the 25 days of camp, that they would be able to know their sight words. And out of that, I have some statistics. Kindergartners that just finished kindergartners, so they'd be going into first grade this year, they came in knowing 15% of their sight words, and we got them to 41% of them knowing all of their sight words ready for the grade level. So that's good. First graders going into second grade, when they entered camp, we tested them, and 35% of them knew their sight words. By the end of camp, 62% knew their sight words fluently. So that was an excellent increase. And second graders going into third grade, 78% of them knew their sight words coming in, and then after the 25 days, 95% of those students were proficient with their sight words. And that was daily work with the high school tutors, you know, flashing the cards, working with the students every day. So we worked the high school students really hard, didn't we, Jeff? And we do have my son here who worked as a camp tutor. We had 28 of them, and Jesse was also our photographer for the camp. Our focus was science. Thank you, Jesse. We used it as an inquiry-based science, and what it was students would ask a question, and then they would do an investigation to answer that, to find the answer to their questions. We studied bubbles. We studied eggs and life cycles. And then one of our high school tutors found a snake out in the yard when we were supposed to be collecting bugs, so they brought the snake in. The snake was very friendly. All of a sudden, she got a little on the aggressive side, just a little garden snake. The next day, she had 26 babies. So I always thought snakes laid eggs. I don't know why I thought that, but I was proven different. They do give live birth to, garden snakes do give live birth. And these kids got to experience that. So that was awesome. They also had an opportunity to go swimming once a week for an hour and a half, and that was our goal. We want all of our kids to learn the life skill of swimming, so they had the opportunity to do that. We use brain-based learning to get their brains going, and so in the afternoon, We had a lot of fun keeping our bodies in shape. I have several students here. Every school, elementary school, is represented. So I'm going to have them stand up because it's better to hear it from them than from me. They actually had the experience. So boys and girls, are you ready? You're going to give them your school, your name, your school, and then you're going to tell them one thing that was really awesome about Camp Learn a Lot. Are you ready?
Not really.
My name is Angela and I'm from Romulus Elementary School.
And one thing that was really fun.
I really liked the Wacky Water Day at Camp Learn a Lot. It made learning a lot funner.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Anthony Saffron from Romulus Elementary School. One thing I liked about Camp Learn a Lot is when we went swimming every Monday. My name is Malik from Wick Elementary. I loved reading there.
My name is Marcus Morrell from Wick Elementary School. I loved the activities every day that we had to do.
My name is Brett Whalen. I'm from Romulus Elementary. I like the Wacky Water Day a lot.
My name is Peyton Mills. I'm from Bar School, and one thing I liked from Camp Learn a Lot was the experiments.
I'm Amy Wilbur, and what I like from Camp Learn a Lot is this one. My name is Yvonne Burt, and the one thing I liked about Camp Learn a Lot was swimming.
Swimming was a biggie.
Good job, boys and girls. You guys are done. I also have a teacher here that took the lead role, Miss Whalen, teacher from Romulus Elementary School that stepped up to take the lead role in planning activities and the curriculum and helping the teachers as they taught these children during the summer. We're not done yet. I'm going to have you sit for just a second. Every day we had a blog so the parents could log in and see what we were doing, and so it was updated every day. So if you ever get bored and you want to read what happened at Camp Learn a Lot, it's up there every day of it. And you Google it. That's the only way you can find it, is you Google it, and it's Romulus Camp Learn a Lot. And on the side it lists all the days created by one of our high schoolers, all of the days of the activities. And we did a lot, and this student composed and wrote a lot about the camp. So if we had time, I'd sit here and read it all to you, but we don't want to be here tomorrow morning, do we?
We might already.
Then one last thing, boys and girls. You ready? It is time. Are you guys ready? This is what we looked forward to every day. And I hope I can. Are you ready? And if you guys out there, you want to tap your feet, get singing, follow the dancing ant. See, if you put it in video, it means a lot more than what I could ever say. But I do want to thank the Board of Ed for allowing it to happen. We also had fine bus drivers that provided transportation for these students, wonderful teachers, wonderful tutors, and hope to do it again June 2014. Thank you.
Students,
Questions?
Will that be submitted at the MASB conference, the award?
yeah, well,
It was.
I mean, we won, so,
right.
We're waiting to hear
okay,
if
gotcha.
we got the, what, the
Got the
Eddie?
big,
Right, it's the, we run the first preliminary, and then there's like a final judging, and we'll find out once we get to the
And we'll be able to
conference.
submit the video if we win?
well, for this one, this will be another round.
Right.
Because we've submitted for the original one. Yes. Could we have the students just stand up and turn around and face our audience and take a nice bow? Because you did a great job.
Yes.
At school tomorrow.
Yep.
And Mrs. McAnally, special thanks to you, and we applaud you and your
Staff.
staff for doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you.
You know I couldn't have done it without them, though.
Absolutely. Thank you, students.
Thank you.
Thank you, parents. And as they're leaving, let's thank the parents because they're the ones who helped make sure that the kids got there today.
Margie.
Okay, and now we have seats available, so for those who are standing. Okay. Well, let them know that we've got the seats are vacated now.
There's 2 rows of seats that have been vacated in the front, if anybody would like to come and get an empty seat.
We're gonna have, Mike is gonna do a little presentation. Middle one, okay. As soon as it gives me the high sign. All set? All right, this evening, we're going to start out with a brief presentation. Mr. Dixon is going to do some updating for us as we go into the next phase of our meeting.
Okay. Can you hear me? Or did I shut it off? Oh, okay, that's good. That's really kind of a tough act to follow right there, especially with some boring stuff. But what I thought I'd do tonight is just take a couple minutes and run through real quickly where we were last week, and then, it was last week, wasn't it? Okay, and then try to hone in a little bit on where we are right now. So, since our last meeting, I kind of rephrase this. We discussed the core curriculum. Just going to go through this sheet real quick because you've seen this before. Oop, not working again. We discussed the core services and instruction and mentioned that the board had already decided not to reduce programs and services affecting the students, kind of recognizing we're here to serve and represent children. We discussed the current situation. We had a $5.3 million projected deficit, and time's not on our side. When we saw this last week, it was $5.5 million, And we just got a notice today from Treasury that the amount of money that they gave us through the Renaissance Zone was miscalculated, and we picked up another couple $100,000 for revenue for last year and for this year. So that's folded into the budget. We also mentioned that the deficit elimination plan's been rejected by the Department of Ed once. It's currently on hold now, and the emphasis right here really is on the word reasonable. Oh, can I borrow your? I know. They're really trying to get us to reasonably reduce our expenditures to pull our budget in balance. We revised the depth, and we're ready to submit it on Tuesday, September 24th. That was direction from the Department of Ed. When we talked to them last week about some of the things, what we were doing and where we were headed, the only comment they had was that October 1st is getting pretty close, and it really is. So we mentioned that we had some very difficult decisions to make in the next few days.
Mr. Dixon, can you explain what October 1st is?
Yeah. I can get it. October 1st, right around October 1st is the shut-off date for state aid for October 20th. They start processing right in that area somewhere. So if you're not squared away with them by somewhere around that time, then the implication was, although they didn't say it, was that they're going to withhold our October state aid. Which brings us to cash flow. And we talked last time about cash flow and the difficulties that we're having trying to make the first pay in October, and then it got compounded with the tax tribunal from award to Delta Airlines. So cash flow is a serious problem that we have right now. And if we don't get, as the chart said, if we don't get our October state aid payment, we won't make the second pay in October, let alone the first pay in November. We're already kind of shaky on the first pay in October. So cash flow is extremely important, and getting the depth approved by the state is extremely important. Okay. We also discussed that that the budget itself really has a structural deficit built into it, and that's one of the things that we had to change. In other words, what we had to do is take a look at what was there and try to adjust it so that when we do, it doesn't come back into the budget. And we talked just real briefly about the land and property sales, although we should sell those. That will help your revenues. They won't correct a structural deficit. They're in one year. If you don't make adjustments to the expenditures, the next year you're running $5 million in the hole again. So we really need to focus on the structural budget deficit. We also discussed the impact on status quo, all right? And the need to identify and implement alternative methods of delivering our non-instructional programs and services, right? And that's a key, because if we're trying to, seriously, if we're trying to hang on to status quo, you've got big time problems, because status quo is going to keep you significantly in deficit. All right, we discussed the impact on wages and benefits, and we got into there a little bit about the reasonableness standard, and we discussed the need for additional students and revenue. You have built into your budget some $75,000, I think it might be a little bit more than that, to use a public relations and a marketing firm to come in and help you try to retain the kids that you have, recruit new ones, see if you can get some kids to return to you. Because the budget from a structural basis is so big and so large that trying to cut your way out of that over an extended period of time is going to be extremely difficult. Okay? So the push would be to get additional resources through students, and we have that. I think when we talked to you the last time, we said we thought we'd have about 3,100 FTE. We now believe that number is closer to 3,200. Those numbers are in the latest revised reflections. The closer we get to count date, the better that number will be. Okay. Sunday meeting on Wednesday, we also worked through the weekend and today. Well, let's back up one. The board gave us direction to move the outsourcing, after we asked for it, of custodial grounds maintenance transportation from the 14-15 budget to the 13-14. So since that meeting last week, we've been working through the weekend and through today to arrive at a depth that we believe the MDE will accept. I'm just going to run real quickly through what the general fund budget amendment looks like.
Is there a way we can get copies of that so we can see it a little bit better?
You have it.
Yeah,
I think
do we have the,
You have it.
Do you have it in your board packet? It's attached to the recommended motion for approving the amended
oh, I'm sorry, I must skip ahead of things.
13-14 budget. No.
Okay.
You just received it. But you know it wasn't in your packet.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I don't see it in
It's
mine.
not in your packet. You just received it today.
You just got it.
On your
It's sitting
table
at the
today.
table.
That's what I was looking for. I didn't see it in mine. That's why. Okay, I got it right here. Hold on. Apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Is everybody, I'm sorry, don't let me move too quick here. Has everybody found it?
We did put copies of that out for the public to look at. If you don't have one, can you look at your neighbor and share?
Okay, so, and I'm sorry this didn't fit on one page, but you can see in the first column there, this is the way that the state requires you to adopt your budget. Gonna throw that thing out. You gotta adopt it by the local revenue sources, state, federal, and then the expenditures by what we call function, instruction, support services, and so on. Okay? Now, we have adopted and amended the first column here, and the 14-15 is the first shot at the budget for the following year. These numbers will replicate the 21 pages of deficit elimination plan you have in the next sheet, all right? So I'm not going to put those 21 pages up there because we'll never get through all that. But that's the result of where the numbers came from. All right, so if we look at this real quickly, we adjusted the revenues and expenditures for what we know now. I mentioned a couple of them. We moved state aid up. We also increased state aid for Renaissance Zone projections. We came in and we tightened down some of the basic programs, which would be mostly instructional staff and salaries, and adjusted the budget for maintenance and transportation. And then moved down to the bottom, we finally got ourselves balanced. If you look at the excess of revenues over expenditures, we're at $290,000 for the year, giving us a fund balance deficit of about $2.6 million for the following year. If you go into 15, just by carrying stuff forward and moving forward, we didn't make any adjustments to state aid to any extent, okay? We were able to balance that budget by $3 million. You take that, subtract the $2.6 million deficit that you have, and at the end of next year, you've got a $372,000 surplus. And that's really the key. That's the second year of the DEP. I think that the information in the DEP gets into a lot more detail than what I just gave to you. But I think that the state's going to find this reasonable, and hopefully they'll move forward with it, and we can keep moving forward.
Are there any questions?
Does this include the additional students that he said it looks like we picked up, the extra from 3,100 to 3,200?
So the original DEP that was, excuse me, can I address the board? The original DEP that was submitted showed 2,963 students. This DEP, this amended budget and the DEP that you have before you includes 3,200 students.
Could you say that again, please?
The original DEP had 2,963. The amended DEP has 3,200. And if you remember from last week, when we talked to the board about how many students we do have coming, we have 3,160 students that we have accounted for and are attending our school district. The additional 40 that we were able to add on was the share time students that we talked about earlier. So that's an increase from the last DEP to this DEP of 237 students. And that is reflected in the revenue, correct, Mike?
Yes, it is. It also, the revenue figure has in there the 10% surplus for the students from English, surplus premium for
Right.
students from any student.
So we have 200, right now, we currently have about 287 students that are in our section, if you will. The state has said that for the next 3 years, you're going to get an additional 10% of your FTE for those students to, work on the transition, to pay for some of the transitional costs, the building maintenance of Inkster High School, et cetera. That's also included in the revenue here.
And that's based upon Romulus's foundational loan.
The 10% is.
Yes.
So on last meeting, when the two options were given to us, the word 2.8 million was thrown out there. Was that the deficit of the DEP that we had to achieve within the next 2 years?
Yeah, that's basically where you, and the only thing that's really kind of changed on that is it's down to 2.6.
Right. Which is the figure here.
Right here. I didn't bring last week's presentation with me.
I got
but-
it.
Right here.
I got
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
Is this the one you needed? Somebody want to see it?
And that would be from the 40 FTEs of the shared time? Is that how it got to 2.6? 2.8?
Well, no, I think a couple of things happened. Number one is it kind of got it was reconstructed. We went through the salaries and benefits, particularly the salaries and benefits, okay, to make sure that what we had in the instructional component as well as the other functions in there were pretty much aligned. And we were able to make some reductions in that because the total dollar amount, of retirement appeared to be overstated for some reason. And I'm not sure, but I could probably guess what it is, but I don't intend to guess what it was. So it was overstated. So what we did is we basically went back in and we ratcheted back the different functions that you're seeing, and then or increased them a little bit. For an example, the area under business was increased from the last time you saw it. It was $600 and some thousand. It appeared that the taxes abated and written off were zeroed out in the budget. That isn't going to happen. So we put some money back in there that was a lot less than what you paid the last 2 years, but at least there's some money in there. So we've got those types of adjustments. We just kind of went through the whole budget and took a look at it.
And are we getting a full FTE for those shared time? That's
We do.
Well, you add them
It's
up,
our-
so you get a full
you-
FTE.
You add it up to, it's 8,000.
so it's over 360,000, correct? If we're getting 40 students?
Well, you have to blend that with last year's count as well. So I did an estimate, I think I used 7,500 as our dollar amount, because I didn't want to overstate that. 7,500 is what I used for the 40 students.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not so sure you don't get the FTE from the district in which they reside, do you?
No, you get the.
You get the district's
yeah,
FTE?
They've changed
Okay.
that legislation recently, and you get the district, your FTE.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just still trying to figure out how we went from 2.8 to 2.6, but that FTE is more, that would take us down farther than 2.6. I'm just trying to. Right, but they finagled some other stuff in the budget, so that had to be added in to take that down. So I was just figuring why the number's only at 2.6.
He also,
But-
Well, the question I have too is also you mentioned that we got money back from the Renaissance.
that's what I was gonna say.
And then also, the last budget we had, I'm looking at 237 more students too in there. And that's from what I'm coming up to, basically, is about 1.9 million. And we're still coming up to 2.6. And last week, when they gave us the thing, it said we were 1.9 million in the hole estimated for the DEP plan for 13-14. And now we go from 1.9 up to 2.6. Somebody's going in the wrong way. And we didn't
Yeah,
even cut anything. We're spending that much more money that quick?
No, I think, and I didn't create the first step, but I think some of the issues that were in the first step was the form that the state sent to you and that you were using was not a hold harmless district form, and the calculation of state aid was incorrect.
So you're saying that the first step was submitted on the incorrect
But-
form?
More than the first. That's what I had a conversation with the state. I said, you've been playing volleyball with this thing, and that's the wrong form.
So,
I mean, really, you were-
so the wrong format was sent up on this to the state incorrectly?
The state
Yeah,
provided
what
us
you
with
do,
the wrong.
the state gives you the form. If you don't ask for the hold harmless form, you get the one that's on the website. That's what you've got, was the typical,
So how do we know we got the right one this time?
because they sent it to us. I asked them to.
It was clarified. Mr.
Yeah.
Kudrick, this entire DEP had to be pulled apart and reconstructed
Constructed,
based
right.
on this requirement from the state. Now, the state will never say to us, you know, we're sorry, we made an error there. Basically, they just.
No, the state will never admit they made a mistake. No, they'll never
Right.
do that. We've
Right.
got countless emails from a gentleman that's employed by the state named Heidelman. They'll never admit that he makes a mistake either.
Right.
Oh, he just did. Well, he's the one that sent us the letter and said, I goofed here, you need a
Yeah, well,
formal
that guy
letter
needs
for
to
your
leave the
auditors."
state of Michigan because he's cost the district more money than anybody that I know of.
But that still loses me, because last week, this was given to us by you,
Right.
or our staff, and it says 2.8, and I'm still trying to figure out from.
What says 2.8?
Right here, the number last week was 2.8 that we had to try to get to.
Yeah.
And
If you were
if we
to
got
re-
these 40 FTEs and this Renaissance money, I'm like agreeing with Mr. Krudick, it should be lower than the 2.6. If this figure should be right from last week, no matter if the DEP plan was wrong or not, because this was given to us just last week, so these figures had to be right, correct? I'm just trying to gather,
no, I
because
think-
there's
I
big
think-
decisions tonight, and
Well, I think what you have to do too is, because there were some that got bumped up. The business area last time was 663,000, I think.
so
I should pull that. They
When
had to
did
be
we
bumped
find out we had the
because,
wrong form?
after I looked at it,
What day was that?
when I first get here, a couple days after I got here, I realized.
A couple
we're
days
looking
after
at-
you got here, and we just found out about it today. I think somebody should have been notifying us, hey, the information you got at Wednesday's meeting was incorrect, it was the wrong form. Wouldn't you think that would have been an ideal thing to do?
No, we had the
So we
right-
wouldn't have been like blindsided here right now, sitting here with our thumbs up someplace? Because it's a little ridiculous right now, and you got people in this community that are trying to figure out, and we've got to make a decision, and yet now we're finding out we had the wrong form originally?
But I don't know whether you knew you had the wrong form or not, but we started working on that.
You just said you knew it a couple days ago when you got here. I mean,
Well, a couple days after I got here, which would have been last week, so. sometime in
last
the
week,
middle of last
okay,
week.
well, we got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We just find out tonight.
should this been
So
something
what-
that was caught by our business manager?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
Well, I
figure
think,
out.
I think that's what the problem that the business manager had. She was trying to make all sorts of adjustments in the other aspect of the state aid. I mean, she was in there making huge adjustments, and one of the problems they had is they said, you can't do that, what you're trying to do. What she was trying to do was bring the form to match the status report that you get from the state for August 20th, okay? She was trying to make those match, so she was playing around with the numbers. And that's when the state said, well, you can't do that, which kind of surprised me that the state at that point in time didn't know that they were using the wrong form, but, so. Yeah,
trying-
no, if you haven't been through this before, she wouldn't have known she was using the wrong form. That's absolutely that true.
So that's the reason why you have prior knowledge, is because you've done something like this before?
Several times, yep.
Okay.
I should pay to that since in the contract
Well, I
then,
just
but
I don't understand how we can make a judgment on something that we just got.
Yeah.
And something that we don't really have a clear understanding of the differences between the numbers. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I can't. I don't see how, I couldn't make any kind of judgment.
We're trying to
on anything
hear,
like that.
please.
Because I don't feel like I understand exactly what took place, and I don't feel like I grasp upon the understanding of the differences between the numbers, so, and we just got this information today, as soon as we walked in here on the table, so. I wouldn't think that would be a fair way to make a judgment on anything.
I mean, I really think somewhere in administration, we should have been notified that there was an incorrect form. Either, you know, hey, we just got knowledge, it's the incorrect form, we'll get it revised to tell us, but to find out here in front of everybody else, it goes right back to the fact, it seems like we find out stuff at the last minute, which is getting ridiculous. I'm not sure who's gonna be responsible, but we need to figure it out quick.
Well, I know one of the things in getting the incorrect form, it's taken a while for us to figure out what the implications are.
Well, I understand that,
Because you
Dr.
don't always know
Daniels.
what they are and how it's going to really impact the bottom line until we really started trying to hammer it out.
I understand
over
that,
the
but let me
weekend.
ask you something, Dr. Daniels. When did you
Sure.
find out we had the incorrect form?
This weekend, a little bit Friday,
Can send an email?
so.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday?
But again, like I said, we didn't know exactly how it was going to impact.
Yeah, a simple,
The
hey, we
numbers.
found out we had the incorrect form, there could be some adjustments, something at least, especially if it was gonna come out in the meeting here, that would have been at least we would have been prepared and said,
But-
yeah, we were notified.
I guess for me, and I do understand the fact that we like to have things here in front of us and have an opportunity, but they worked over this over the weekend. So, I mean.
Okay, there
the
goes to
numbers,
another point to why
so
we weren't
them-
notified.
But listen, them having to work on this over the weekend, this is the product that we are all getting at the same time. So I guess my thing is, it'd been different if they had found this out earlier last week to have it for us, but they worked over the weekend on this to get this for us today. So, so I guess for me, Madam President, one of the things that if the board needs an opportunity to look at it, then are we postponing it?
My question is the adult ed, it goes from 430,000 down to 122,000.
We're trying to, listen, please.
For cost, do we,
In the second year, because the board had approved us to eliminate community high school. Community high school is funded under adult ed. It's not funded through adult education
oh, all right.
funding, but that's where it's line item, because it's alternative education.
What is this guy returning again?
School administration, is that where we eliminated the assistant principal? That went down?
You said the assistant principal?
The budget went down under school administration.
Yeah, but assistant principal from where?
The high school.
Aren't they trying to post that position? That's what I don't understand. So
Yeah,
how
I don't
can it
think
go
so.
down
I don't think it
if
went
we can, if we're looking to fill it? I don't,
Right, and as a board, we said that we wanted to have that position in place for the 2013-14 school year for the Inkster students, and that we would look at that again in the 14-15 school year.
I think we
How
need to
many-
move that up a little bit sooner.
How many increase did we have in the high school?
As far as the kids, Ms.
Is it
Peck?
on there? And another thing, though, that, and I know these are all difficult decisions, but the role of the assistant principal has changed. It's not just you have one who's over discipline and all. Now, all of the administrators at the high school, all of them at all of the schools now, a part of having to go through and do teacher evaluations, increased walkthroughs, evaluating and observations, it takes more time than just one or two people could do. So the kinds of things that have been added on, it goes beyond what the normal is. And I know it seems to be one of those things that, everyone doesn't understand, but these are some of the new things that are being added as a part of the responsibilities to ensure that, one, we're making sure that we're keeping up with all of the new regulations that are coming out, but those are some of the additional responsibilities that are being added in. You want to give the?
but what is that figure though for that position with perks and benefits, and do we know?
The salary on that, I don't have it memorized, but I think it's around 83,000.
Plus benefits, correct?
Plus benefits, correct?
That's correct. So somebody had asked the question, how many students did we have last year at the high school? We budgeted for 887 students, so that was rolling up our 8th graders to the 9th grade and graduating out our 12th graders. We budgeted for 887, we have 995. That's a 108 increase over what we had budgeted for last year.
And what's the likelihood of revamping the way some of our admin at the high school do things with those positions? I mean, if the Hell Herd has 3 or 4 administrators,
He doesn't have
take a little bit,
to.
share more of the work. I mean, a lot of our, I mean, you know, we're short on lunch moms, we're short on people cleaning rooms. They're taking on more work, so why can't our admin take on more work too? And I know we probably have been, so. I'd like to sentiment Mr. Kudrick that moving it up this year, really. That 120,000 probably with benefits.
Madam President.
Gee, how many principals do you have at the high school, or assistants?
We have 2 APs and one principal,
One
2
principal.
assistant principals.
So you've got 3 people. How many staff do you have?
We have 49 and a half teachers.
Okay, so you've got a ratio there of 15 to 1 on evaluation?
I'll give you a good example. I'm a fireman in the city, and there's 12 of us. So there's one of me for every 2,500 people. So
You don't evaluate 2,500.
you don't think so?
I know you don't.
I'm telling you.
Personally, you evaluate
No,
2,500.
no, I'm not
people.
evaluating, but there's one fireman per 2,500. So in
Oh,
the same
I know.
aspect, it works the same way, if
No,
that's what
but-
you're trying to prove to me.
No, but what you I think what Mrs. Daniel was trying to say, that on a supervision ratio, you've got explicit evaluation requirements that you didn't have a couple of years ago. Okay, so this isn't stopping by and visiting 2 or 3 times a year for 20 minutes once every 3 years. This is 5 or 6 times a year, every year, for every one of them. Okay?
But most
So
of the day, aren't
that's-
these kids in school?
Pardon me?
Aren't most, for the hours of the day, they're in a classroom?
The teacher, they gotta evaluate the teachers.
Teachers.
Significantly increase the evaluation of the teacher. I think
Uh,
that's what you were trying to
Right.
say. Right.
What about our athletic director and our community high school director? Could they not assist in some way? Or there are contract requirements that say, no, they can't, they can only do the students they have?
The community high principal is, his duties and responsibilities are overseeing the community high school, and he's not within the same bargaining unit as RASA. So that's one issue that would need to be addressed. With regard to the athletic director, he does belong to the same bargaining unit as RASA.
Wouldn't he benefit by evaluating the ones that are dealing with?
He's not qualified.
Is that over there?
That's not under his qualification to do teacher evaluations.
He's an administrator, right?
He's an athletic director. It's a different qualification. Madam President,
That's
if
the
I
biggest
may-
thing about this, is that there's 6 people here sitting here, and we're all gonna have different opinions, and
I-
that's fine,
I
and that's why we have
understand
that.
that.
But I really think that since that position's vacant, we should just move it up to this current year too, to get the extra savings from it. Why are we gonna put one person in that position for 1 year, when it's already on the books to eliminate next year?
Well, another one of the things that we've talked about is helping to ensure, not only, for the teacher portion, but as we are, and I'm really pleased that things seem to be going along very well. But as we're blending in new students, and even with the increased number, one of the things that have been going on positively at the high school is the climate has improved considerably. And we want to make sure that it stays that way, and that we get it so that we have a good foothold on it, so that it does continue, so that we can build on a success and not set ourselves up for a failure situation. Because I think that we have many more positive things going on at the high school than people realize. We got an email from a person who has been out and around and called our high school as one of the unsung, monumental positive programs that's going on. And I think part of that has been because of the leadership team that we've had who've been able to help make that go forward.
So what is the pleasure of the board?
Actually, one of the pleasures of me personally is I'd like to get information a little bit quicker than the last minute sitting here, especially when administration finds out about it prior. At least a simple email, hey, we found out we had the wrong form or something to give us some kind of heads up. That was a little ridiculous, personally, I think.
Well, again, and I do apologize, but one of the things is we didn't know the impact that it was going to have. We didn't
But
know that it was going to be a negative.
But you didn't know the impact. I can respect that. I understand that. But a simple thing, hey, we got the wrong information, the wrong sheet was sent up originally, maybe things aren't going to be as worse, maybe they could be at least give us a heads up, not sitting here finding out from Mr. Dixon that the wrong form was filled out, and we're all sitting here like, what? I mean, something, a little heads up would have been really good. And now we look like fools to the people in the community that administration is not giving us stuff in a timely manner.
Well, that's not nothing new. Let's not act like that's something new. We've been known we not getting stuff. Come on now, let's be realistic about that. When you was here, you knew that.
Come on.
No, that is, here go, again, they worked over this, on this plan over the weekend. I understand that, and I understand that, but here you go. If you're working on something, then you don't have a finished product until it's finished. Thank you. But I think we are missing the mark on this conversation, and let me just bring it here. Structural changes. We can sit here and we can go roundabout for 3 more hours about this conversation. We need to make some structural changes. Now, what are those going to be? As painful as wanting to have to privatize, nobody up here wants to do it, but it's something that has to be done, or we are going to fail, which means that we will fail our kids.
With the class sizes, you're already failing them.
And
it's
see, and
not
that's
gonna
the
get
other
any
thing.
better.
And that's the other thing. It's not going to get any better until we make some structural changes. It's like we can't even hire new teachers because we
don't
don't
have
even
the
know
cash
that
flow.
we don't have the cash flow. We don't have the cash flow. So and cutting our way out, just like Mr. Dixon said, is not going to get us anything but a nasty program. The quality is just going to go south. And so if that's what the community wants, then as a board, but I've been thinking over the weekend, one of the things that MASB talks about is to lead strong. And oftentimes as leaders, we have to make some tough decisions, but we have to have the courage to be able to make those decisions. And, we can sit and we can stall and talk about things not getting to us on time over something that they just finished probably at the wee hours of this morning to get this information so that we can have it tonight. But it still does not change the fact that we got to make some changes.
I agree with you 110%. We do have to make changes, but it doesn't necessarily mean we have to. It's not it. To me, yes, we need changes. I've been saying that from the beginning, okay? But it's about where the changes start and making sure that the changes are fair all the way around the board. And that's the problem in my perspective that I feel personally. Yes, I agree with you. We still got to get it done. But that's like anything else. When you have something on your job, you have to do. If there's any changes that takes place that you know of, it's your responsibility to then let your boss know what's going on. Now, that doesn't mean that you have a finished product, but just out of respect, you let them know what's going on. And that's what my man right here is saying. He's saying that he didn't get the information in enough time. He's feeling like it's all brought up on him in a surprise moment, and I'm feeling the same way. So I understand what you're saying on that too.
Right.
But like I said, that goes with any job. Everybody says that. And when I say my man, I mean Tom. Let me make that clear. Let me go ahead and be a little bit more professional. I mean Tom. I just feel like that comes with any job. Anytime, and it's not a way of trying to point fingers, but that should be part of our changes that we need to look at, is we need to look at the way things are done all the way across the board. So let's just go forth from here, but we do need to recognize that is what took place, and that because of that is the reason why we sitting where we sitting right now, like we sitting where we are.
So, Madam President, then
Yeah.
are we to make the motions and then postpone them until when? Because it
this
sounds
needs
to
to
me.
be turned in when? When is the state saying they have to have it?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, they, if you remember
no
correctly,
choice.
if you go back, they gave you a 2-week
Right.
extension, went to about the 15th or so, a Thursday. Okay, that's when we called them and said, we've got a board meeting on Monday, we'd like an extension. And they gave that to you. Are they gonna give you another one? I don't know. The only thing we can do is ask. The only thing they said to us when we asked for the other one, I've already mentioned that to you, is October 1st is getting real close. That's simple. Now, and I will suggest this to you, that we're not the only school district in the state of Michigan. You pop that to them on September 30th, you think they're dropping and starting to look at that just because we showed up? That's probably not going to happen. All right? It's going to take them quite a few days to review this and get back to us.
So basically,
It's not the only
we have
thing
to
that
send the
has-
ball over the net this week? Is that what
Pardon
you're
me?
saying? We gotta send the ball back over the net
Yeah,
this week?
we better. We better. I think we better.
It's sort of like we have the cart before the horse. If the privatization is included in these motions, then we should address them first.
They are on the agenda first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Could I ask of the non-instructional support, which categories are full-time versus part-time? I mean, I really believe all school employees should be valued, but which one of these would be full-time?
I don't understand.
Maintenance and operation be full-time.
So is maintenance, that's like auto maintenance?
Oh,
Your
you're
bu-
talking about
Your
the-
maintenance, building maintenance and operation is your custodial staff. Your busing transportation is, some people could consider it as a part-time because it's not an 8-hour position or 7.5 hours, based on whatever the contracts say.
And you can't really work in between, or you wouldn't be, who's gonna hire
You
you
can't
for
do,
a
you
half
can't
hour
do,
in the
you
middle?
can't do both jobs, unfortunately.
So we have two motions in front of us.
Well, I actually have a question about the motions. On the motions, it says a 3.5-year period.
Because we're starting it this year,
Okay.
which is your half, and then the contract was for 3 years.
I thought they were a 5-year contract. No?
5-year was an option.
Oh,
had
we
a-
chose a 3?
We chose the 3.
Oh. So I thought, I mentioned 5 last week, and I thought they agreed, but, okay. It's 3.5 is better for me, I guess.
It just allows us to bid it out again sooner for additional cost savings in those years being there.
Or to even get it back if we're at a,
Correct.
Yes, we need a motion, please, on the approval of privatization of non-instructional support service transportation, which is the first item.
Madam President, I move that the motion reads, whereas in order to reduce expenditures as a result of budget deficit, the Board of Education authorized the district's administration to seek proposals from qualified transportation service providers. Whereas the district issued a transportation service request for proposals. Whereas after careful review of the responses to the district's transportation service request for proposals, including interviews, reference checks, cost analysis, and consultation with legal counsel, the district's administration has recommended the Board of Education accept the response tendered by Durham School Services for Transportation Services, where Durham will lease the existing district-owned fleet and provide replacement buses to be further described in the contract. Now therefore it is resolved, the Board of Education directs the district's administration to negotiate and enter into a contract with Durham School Services for a 3.5-year period from December 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2017, provided the contract is consistent with the proposal submitted by Durham School Services and the district's request for proposal for transportation services, and The Board of Education authorizes the district superintendent to execute the necessary documents to effectuate this resolution, including the referenced contract. Rationale, expenditure reductions as required by the deficit elimination plan.
Support.
Motion
Discussion.
made by Funderburg, supported by Mr. Kudrick. Discussion, Mr. Thied,
And
please.
do we have the dollar value on this?
Thank you, Mr. Thied.
I mean,
So the first year anticipated savings is about $334,000 for transportation. Going into the second year, we anticipate being able to reduce those costs down by $659,000. Understand that the first year is a reduced savings because we're going into it after the school year has already started.
You got a little bit of unemployment severance. And
So, yep.
Any further questions?
Just for the record, the buses, they will have GPS and cameras. Is that correct, Ms. Peck?
That is correct. Durham Services will install those onto our buses that they're leasing from us.
Okay, and was there something about an upgraded communication system as well?
May I have, Justin's here from Durham. I'm going to have him address the board.
Okay.
If that's the pleasure of the
That's
president.
fine.
Okay. Justin,
Could
can
you come up
can you
and
come
use the
up,
mic,
Use
please?
the
sir?
mic, yeah. Thank you.
It's like
You can
that
just
top.
take it out.
As part of our proposal, Durham will lease your existing bus fleet and make replacements to that fleet as they age out after the route buses exceed 12 years of age. And so I believe I think it's in the third year, it might be the second year, so because we're doing a half a year, 1 and 2. So in the second year, you'll get some replacement buses because your fleet starts to age out. And then in year 3, there's, I believe, 11 buses that are replaced. There's a big hurdle that you have to overcome with 2003 buses that are going to be expiring that are used on your bus routes. So that's as part of our proposal what we will do, and that's reflected in the lease. And those buses that Durham will provide will be just all the fleet will say Romulus Community Schools at your request. And as part of our proposal, all the buses will be equipped with digital cameras to aid the driver and the administration with managing student behavior, as well as all the buses will be equipped with a GPS system. And that'll be linked to our dispatch office, and that'll help them answer inquiries as they come in as to where the bus is located.
Another question, the supervisor for that, is that going to be up under Durham or is it up under Romulus?
Under Durham.
Okay.
And if I could, one of the changes that we're implementing as part of the contract is you currently have one transportation supervisor and then a part-time secretary that's in the department. And when we take over, we'll have 2 full-time people and a part-time person. So as a result, that'll allow us to focus more efforts on routing and communication. And I know that some big changes were overcome when you were able to bring in a new director here to make route changes that have led you to not have to increase your fleet when you took on Inkster. And we want to continue that trend to be able to look at every stone and make sure there's nothing inefficient that we can pass on and recommend, hey, this could be changed and save you dollars, or this could be changed and you can add a program here and still, meet your needs of the community.
Will those people work physically in our building?
Yes, they will be housed here, and in addition, there'll be 2 full-time mechanics that we will employ as part of the proposal, in addition to all the bus drivers and bus aides.
what about our mechanics? Are they included in this?
That's my
They're
understanding, right?
part of this.
And they're going to be kept too?
They're going to be hired through Durham if
Right.
if
To
they
work
choose
on
to
our
hire
fleet?
them. Yeah.
Okay, I missed the part about. Okay, I missed the part about the transportation supervisor we currently have. So in this proposal, that position is also eliminated?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion.
Is it our intentions to hire the mechanics too?
I'm sorry?
Our mechanics are going with this too?
Our intentions would be interview everyone and find the best candidates for those positions, and we have had some conversations with the administration already about, the candidates. We look forward to talking with them as soon as, we're able to, should you make a decision to move forward.
I just got one other question. What are we going to do as a district for the employees that are maybe eligible or very close to being eligible for retirement? Are we going to kind of give some kind of a third-party company maybe to talk to them, what's their best interest, whether they should retire, freeze their retirement or something, somebody that's a third-party impartial person, they kind of give them some good sound information so they don't feel maybe they're getting blindsided by somebody and lose?
Yeah.
I honestly feel that the people that this is affecting needs to have somebody they can honestly go to and trust and feel they're getting an honest answer, because I don't want to put anybody out of work and not have some kind of a resource that they can figure out what's the best way. Should they apply through Durham? Should they retire or what? That's, I would want that from my employer if they did something like this to me.
Right.
Out of respect for them. I mean, there's a lot of good people, unfortunately, that are affected by this.
If I may, I know one of the things that we've worked with other districts on is they have talked to the Office of Retirement, and the Office of Retirement has held a consulting session here on site, open for the employees, and it's kind of a precarious situation because you can't speak on behalf, your administration can't speak on behalf of what each individual's criteria is and what their years are and all their factors. So they'll have to get some of that information themselves, and then what has worked well is that the retirement office come and have a session here and talk to folks about the best course of action.
I'd still like to have a third-party person come in and talk to them. This way they feel like they're already getting a straight answer versus maybe one side, nothing to harm anybody, but I think maybe the members themselves would like to let them decide. But I'd at least like to have them have the option.
Yeah, I mean, when would be the target date for this? I mean,
December 1st.
Yeah, and so does that not give them plenty of time to just get somebody to talk to them?
One of the things that the board has to be very cautious on is giving financial advice to employees as far as their advice outside of their employment situation. Mr. Dixon was just indicating to me that it's a very slippery slope, and I don't want to put the board in any kind of situation where you become now responsible for the decisions that an employee makes.
I don't think we're responsible,
but
I think what I'm saying is give them an opportunity to seek some professional. I'm not going to say I'm a responsible person that's going to tell somebody they should retire or not. I'm just saying give them the opportunity to find it.
I think you have a whole series of vendors that sell annuities, right? There's no reason why they can't use one of them, and they can't use the retirement system, see where the pieces are. I think if you were to retain an outside financial advisor to come in, some type of that, to provide that assistance, I think you assume some responsibility for that. You should check with the attorneys on that. I go to the 403B vendors and their financial advisors there.
And the retirement system.
But what we could do, Mr. Kuderik, is provide employees with a, kind of a FAQ. Here's something that you might want to consider doing. Here's some people that do this. You're not
That's
you're
what
not
I mean.
working
Give
for.
them some people.
Here's the number to ORS. They can help you with some of these
Right.
things.
Yeah,
I can
Like,
have-
I'm not going to go to Mrs. Bowles for information on
Yeah.
my job. I mean, I want to go to somebody that's in my profession so I
So
can
we
get some
could give them a
information.
list
So
of
this way they can.
resources.
Right.
Some folks may not really be thinking about where they can go. They're lost right now. They're confused. So to kind of give them some guidance, not say this person, maybe give them a couple options. Here's some in the area that handle,
And then also include or refer back to your own personal financial consultant.
I have, Chair, kind of shift a bit to the student side. As far as if a parent had a complaint or concern, are they contacting Durham or are they contacting the people who would be here, like the secretary and that supervisor who is going to be over the program? How are we as a district now going to manage if we have complaints or concerns about the buses? and the, you know, routes and that kind of thing.
Ultimately, the objective is that we are your end-to-end provider. So when the phone calls come in about transportation to the transportation office, you know, we are the ones answering the phone and fielding those calls. Now, it takes a unique situation where you as a board and administration have to have a liaison that we work with that goes over the policies with us. We set parameters. For an example, you have a set of board policies that says you're going to transport, you know, under these criteria. And if someone's calling saying, hey, you know what, I want transportation now, then we need to go back to that designee. And that may be, in most school districts, it's a business person, the business manager, or in a larger school district, they employ someone who oversees operations. So, but in a school district your size, it's typically the business manager who oversees the contract we interface with. And then we also interface with your administration at the building level and those secretaries at the building level. And so, oftentimes we ask, and you know, the boards have our transportation general manager as part of your administrative cabinet that goes through those meetings and converses with those folks, and you know, can address those things as they come up. And so ultimately there will be some, you know, inquiries that might come above our level that we need to either bring forward to the administration or that go to the administration saying, hey, we're second guessing this decision that was made, and that's where we have to work together to come to a solution.
Yeah, that's what he was just
That's
saying.
what he just
Yeah.
said.
Ms. Peck, I just had one other question. I guess this kind of, he segued a little bit into it. Will we as a board have to adjust our policies at all to now incorporate if the Durham? Would there have to be a change in the policy?
I'll check on that, and I'll
Okay.
get back with the board. Any policy changes that need to change as a result of this.
I have a quick question. On the AP classes, are they full enough that it's covering their costs, or are those classes, some of them, like, do we have any high school classes that are small, is what I'm asking?
I've just reviewed, audited the numbers for our secondary at both the middle school and the high school. All of our core content classes are almost at capacity. Some of them are over capacity right now. We are working on some additional staffing at the middle school currently, but all of our core instructional, so math, science, social studies, and English, are almost 34, 35 across the board students.
And the AP classes?
The AP classes as well. There are some classes, particularly at the high school, and this is something that we experience, that are less than 35, and those are kind of those more unique classes. So like you won't see 35 students in the engineering program. We didn't have 35 students that met the criteria for entering into that program where the interest wasn't there. But they're still much higher than they were in previous years.
But there's still enough to cover costs?
Yes.
Okay, we have a current motion on the floor. Are there any more questions in regards to the motion?
Just one. Does RESA supply any kind of service that their employees could go to then to find out information, maybe some guidance?
I'll put them on my list of somebody to reach out to.
Because that's a
Yeah.
reputable place, and it's through Wake County.
Yeah.
So maybe they feel comfortable with.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll contact the business office over there.
all right.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Funderburg and supported by Mr. Kudrick. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Kudrick?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
No.
Ms. Kraut?
No.
Mr. Thied?
Yes.
Ms. Funderburg votes yes. Ms. Beard?
Yes. It's a 4-2. Motion passes.
That's for transportation.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of privatization of non-instructional support services, custodial, and maintenance.
Make your computer easier. Cancel.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Recommend the motion, whereas in order to reduce expenditures as a result of the budget deficit of the Board of Education, authorize the district administration to seek proposals from qualified custodial maintenance services. Whereas the district issued a custodial maintenance service request for proposals. Whereas after careful review of the proposal of the district's custodial and maintenance service request for proposals, including interviews, reference checks, cost analysis, consultation, legal counsel, the district's administration has recommended the Board of Education accept the proposed tendered by DM Burr Group for custodial maintenance service. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education's district directs the district administration to negotiate and enter into a contract with the DM Burr Group for a 3.5-year period from November 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2017, provided the contract in consent with the proposal submitted by the DM Burr Group Services and the district's request for proposal for custodial and maintenance services, and the Board of Education authorizes the district superintendent to execute the necessary documents to effectuate this resolution, including the reference contract, rationale, expenditure reduction as required by the deficit elimination plan.
Support.
Discussion.
Motion made by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Mrs. Funderburg. Discussion, Mr. Theed.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I don't support with. The only reason I kind of went with the bus drivers is because I know they're going to get some money back. I talked to a few of them, and it's probably not the best package for them, but they're going to get a little bit hourly rate. But these other people, they're not even going to have a retirement, and their hourly rate's going to be a lot less. And I'm ready to send the ball back to the state with some cuts, but I think there's a lot of things we could probably do with our maintenance and operations right now. I mean, did we not have a custodial coordinator in our contract that's not filled? Yes. Why couldn't we drop our administrator from that and get stipends to a custodial and a maintenance person and make it a maintenance operation coordinator position and save that administrator position and wipe that off and let a maintenance and custodial person run our staff, if that's in the contract and we would save an additional $100 and some thousand on that position.
The coordinator cannot evaluate, the coordinator position in the local cannot evaluate staff.
How much evaluation are we doing of staffs? Because I've never seen a teacher evaluation in front of me. And we've asked for an evaluation for years and never saw it from Mr. Weiss. So how much evaluation are we doing? Are we doing any work in the buildings? Or are we just evaluating employees all the time? And what kind of employees do this guy evaluate?
Well, the teacher evaluation and that is.
Okay, but I'm talking about these employee evaluations. I mean, I've asked this guy to do a few things and nothing's been done yet. So how can I evaluate him? So I am evaluating him by trying to eliminate this position.
So Mr. Theed, I was just letting you know that in the contract, they can't evaluate and they also can't discipline staff.
Then why do we have a custodial coordinator position? What's a custodial coordinator do?
It hasn't been filled.
If it were somebody within the union, they can't
But why does it have to
evaluate
be?
each other.
Well, how did we do it in
Yeah.
transportation when we didn't have a supervisor back for a couple of years?
The business manager took over all
Okay,
of those operations.
well, we're going to interview one for that, right? So I guess we'll add the job to him. But I support Mr. Theed's recommendation too on that. I mean, I made the motion on this, and I will say this as a comment. I made the motion on it to get this on the table to get going for discussion, but unfortunately, based on Public Act 606, I can't vote on this one way or the other because I seek financial gain out of it according to the state of Michigan. Unfortunately, if it was eliminated, I don't see how that's a gain, but I'm not the one that made the rules. The state of Michigan did. As for the transportation, my spouse is not in transportation, so I don't gain anything. So, let's, so,
Yes, if it is included in on that job, yes, they are allowed to discipline.
I have a question, Ms. Pay.
Go ahead, Mrs. Funderburg.
I know one of the things when we first got the bid, we discussed a livable wage for the custodians because it came in at, so like for instance, I'll just go with the head custodian. It came in at for DM, it came in at $9.
That was the original
That
bid.
was the original bid.
Didn't accept
And
it.
then we had it modified because that was crucifixion to me. It came in as a proposal for A and a proposal B. The proposal A was $12. The proposal B was 15. Is there any wiggle room in this particular bid where we could move the head custodian's salaries up to either reflect the 15% that they had taken as a union or a little bit more?
It's my understanding, and Tim is here from DM Burr, he can address the board too if that's your pleasure. But it's my understanding their operations are different than what our structure is set as. They don't have head custodians, they have supervisors, and the supervisor is already included it's a working and moving supervisor. So the hourly pay rates for custodians, a head custodian, they don't have that classification. They have supervisors and grounds technicians, supervisors, and maintenance.
The lead maintenance?
Yes.
Would the supervisor be one of our people?
It would be hired by DM Burr as well.
Can I ask a
Do
question
they
here?
clean buildings too?
And maybe
Supervisor?
We
Can you
need
use
to
the microphone,
mic,
sir?
please.
Ms. Peck, can I ask you a question, though? So if maintenance and custodial was privatized, that would also take care of the supervisor over there would be gone too, correct?
That is correct.
At the same time frame?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what we have budgeted it.
So then you're talking about the director's position for that?
That is correct.
Right.
Okay.
What we had dedicated to the project was a
I'm
full-time-
not sure that the
That
mic
button's
is on.
on.
It's a top button.
Oh, okay.
I just don't have it close enough. There we go. Okay. What we included in this project was a full-time dedicated supervisor, which means that person's full-time duty is to supervise and train and evaluate and discipline, run payroll for us, and manage the entire process, supplies, procurement, those kinds of things. So that's what we had. That is a well-paid position in the area north of $20 an hour. We are willing to make any adjustments that the board might require as far as salary rates go.
It was my understanding, though, that the board would only consider this if bid proposal B was the one that we factored in, which is what we did factor in.
Right.
We did not factor in the $9 or $12 an hour. We factored in the $15 an hour for custodians,
Right.
17 for maintenance, and 22 for the supervisor that Tim just spoke of.
Right.
Does your supervisor, what's he do? Does he travel around? Does he go to a building and work? What's he do?
No, their responsibility is every building.
Would that be
So-
Romulus buildings, or would it be other districts too at the same time?
Absolutely no other district, only Romulus.
Do they
Yeah.
do they discipline?
Yes.
So how come we just can't have a supervisor like one of our people in the union? I mean, what's the difference?
I can't
I don't
I
understand.
can't answer that for the district.
Why don't we just negotiate a supervisor position? And we keep some people in the retirement program.
Is our members of our staff allowed then to put in for that job?
Yes, in fact, we would interview any of the current staff first before we consider anyone else.
What has been your percentages of when, if going into a district that's considering privatization and they did it, what is your percentage rate as far as the employees that are hired from that district into your company?
It varies, it's all over the board, and part of the reason is those pay rates that are approved by the board. So if that pay rate, back a few years ago was $8.50, not a lot, some. When that pay rate is higher in a district such as South Redford, I think we ran 50%, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it is dependent on the pay, and you have a point there.
Is there any type of benefits that these folks would get that your company offers to them? Like, do they earn vacation? Do they earn sick days? Do they get any kind of retirement? Do they got medical? Do you offer 401k? Give us some insight.
Yeah, there are 5 paid vacation days after the first year. There are 5 non-paid days used at discretion. In terms of health insurance, it's not part of the general package. It could be, probably at a much lower rate than what you would be paying now.
Now, I understand that the company that wants to do the transportation, they made a comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody on the board, is that they would recognize the individual's seniority in the district. Does your company also recognize that? Am I correct on?
Yeah, you
that?
are.
Okay. Does your company also offer that same thing? So if an employee has 5 years here and another employee from one of your other cities that you take care of lives in Romulus and wants to say, well, hey, Romulus is now belonging to my company, I want to transfer, and they've only got 4 years, who gets it?
Actually, we don't honor seniority in that way in terms of job selection.
Okay.
What we honor is performance.
Okay, so if somebody's got 5, 10, 15 years in the district and they get hired by your company, their 5, 10, 15 years is basically they start at 0, is what you're saying? Am I correct?
No, seniority is just not an issue. Okay, and what
There's
the
no
issue
seniority
is.
based
So
things
you
in your
don't
company,
you don't
right?
recognize seniority versus somebody you are recognize performance.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
And
a
it's-
12-year employee comes into your business, they got to wait a year to get a vacation day?
Yes.
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
Unless the district decides that they would like to grandfather them in, and they would like to absorb that cost, then that can be done as well.
So if I'm going to absorb the cost, I'd rather keep them myself.
So is it 5 years the first year, and does it go up, or is it just 5 years 5 days every year?
It goes up after 3 years.
3 years, like 10 days, and then 15 years, 3 weeks, 10 years, something like that.
What is your employee turnover rate, can I ask you?
Yeah. Normally, in the first few months in most contracts, and I believe every company would tell you this, it's higher. In our education accounts, we've measured it the last 4 or 5 years, and it runs about 9.5% across the board. It's a concern we have as well.
Now, I looked at your proposal that I got the correct one, and I was finally able to view the correct one today. And I noticed on ours, we have approximately 14, 15 custodians, I think, currently in the district.
16.
16? Okay. And your proposal was for 26 custodians?
No. Our proposal was 21.5 custodians for
And then
maintenance.
For maintenance.
What?
And then additional
Oh,
for
the four,
maintenance.
okay, so, all right,
Yeah,
so
that was all
21
together.
custodians and then four, okay. Okay.
And I do realize you've been working short-staffed.
Yeah.
Oh, I could tell you they've been working short-staffed.
Sure. For
Firsthand.
quite some time.
I guess we got all of our questions in.
What is the savings for this group? The first year and the second year?
In the first year, the first partial year, the board will realize almost $500,000 savings in maintenance and operations, $483,000. In the second year, when we have a full year, the full year savings for maintenance and operation is about $737,000.
And that's based on the new
That is correct.
negotiated lower
That is
salary
correct.
and giving up the days and everything else?
Yes, ma'am.
And they would have no health insurance and no retirement,
They will
correct?
have health insurance. In the package that DM Burr submitted to us, employees will have a monthly allotment given to them, $254 a month.
So that's about
Wait a minute,
50% of a single coverage?
I'm not sure. Tim, what is the?
It's based on 75% single coverage.
Okay.
So the employees are getting 200 and they're given 200 or they're taking 200 and some dollars out of their check?
They're allotted $254.
So they're getting
so
an
that's-
allotment of 200 and some dollars to find their own insurance.
No, I believe that there's a package.
But you only offer it as a single,
We can do it as a double as a family, but the way that we gave the pricing to the district was based off of a single.
so if an individual worked for you and they were married and had school-age children, you're only on earning 200 and some odd dollars of the plan. Am I correct in understanding that?
Through the way that the district
Right.
requested it, yes, we
Okay.
provided you with the cost for single coverage.
Single coverage. So if they were married and had dependents or just had dependents, there's, that right, the way the bid was submitted was only submitted as 200 and some dollars allotted for them. Okay. All right.
Do we have any room where we can, or time frame where we could make adjustments to this bid?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you had to say.
I said, is there any way that we could make any adjustments to the bid to increase certain things if we wanted to? I mean, is there a,
We can certainly do that. I'm not sure if the state's going to allow us to continue
Stacy.
pushing this. I don't know if the timeline is going to work out for the state.
Well, you want to worry about whether you get out of,
Right,
you balance things out too.
right,
I'd be more worried about whether or not the bottom line balances out that first year.
right.
So,
Get that out of some of the women too. Madam Chair, I make a motion, we end debate and vote on this.
okay, have a roll call vote, please. We have a motion made by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Ms. Funderburg.
Mr. Kudrick?
Abstain due to conflict of interest stated on PA 606.
Ms. Bowles?
No.
Ms. Crop?
No.
Mr. Thied?
No.
Ms. Funderburg, yes. Ms. Beard?
I'll say yes. Motion doesn't pass. 1 abstain, 3 noes, 2 yeses. Motion fails.
Doesn't do anything.
Actually, you're right, Dr. Daniels just pointed out, with Robert's rules, you have to have 4 affirmative votes. Because it has to be a majority of the elected
just
body,
a
not members present, so
Either way.
4, even if we would have had 4, it wouldn't have, so this did not, it did actually nothing. It was not it didn't fail and it didn't pass. It's just off the table.
If it's off the table, can I ask, when is it going to return? Because quite honestly, the employees in our district need to be, they're tired of walking on pins and needles. And I mean,
Call for
they either need to know yes or no. So are we going to bring it up at the next meeting when Ms. Buckley's here or what? I mean, because there's too many people that I see in the community and everybody else at this table sees at times throughout the days or years. I mean,
We can bring it back up on Wednesday and do another
Special
vote with a full board.
meeting. So would you like to set for a special meeting?
we're in a pickle on that one, but I won't be available on Wednesday.
So what is the pleasure of the
Want
board?
to call for a special meeting?
Special
Call for
meeting
a
or
special
no?
meeting on Wednesday. Call for it.
Would you like a special meeting on Wednesday?
I don't know.
Yes. She'll be back.
Would she be back?
There's no
Said it.
there's no way that we could, I mean, with teleconference or anything like that with her, huh?
Well,
that.
let's go ahead and set the meeting for 6 PM on Wednesday.
Just open the phone and just
Yeah,
let her speak.
I won't be here, Madam Chair. I've got a prior engagement for that day.
Yeah, I have to check my schedule too.
And Mr. Thiegy, you may be working.
Well, we'll set it for Wednesday at 6 PM and it'll be what it'll be then.
Right, then that means the other two are
So what about additional
the next two.
cuts? Can we talk about any additional things we can?
Yeah, I
On
brought,
Wednesday?
No, right now, I mean,
No?
we probably
we
might
gotta,
have,
we gotta send the ball back over in net, don't we?
yeah, but we gotta get through these other ones so we can add them towards the end.
I don't know what we gonna do yet, 'cause we don't know how she gonna vote.
No, but we can talk about additional cuts, but I think we should move forward on some of this other stuff and get that done for
Get it out of the way.
We got an executive session at the end, and I think let some of the community members go home.
Okay, let's
because-
go back to the agenda, please. The issue that we have, though, is with the next item on the agenda, these items that we just voted on are part of that budget and part of that debt.
Put it on hold. So that takes those on Wednesday.
Maybe, Madam Chair, would it be out of order maybe to amend the agenda now to maybe take item D to move it down to further down, maybe after the reinstatement and the executive session, things like that? And the board member comments could probably maybe add some possible savings to help that out. Is that wrong?
Move item D and E to after reinstatement of students, is that what you're requesting?
Or did he say
No,
after the
I
executive
have to
session?
go. I have to go. But if you need me here for that, I need to go. I gotta be on the east side tomorrow morning, early.
I mean, the best we can do is I can take notes and then share them with Mr. Dixon.
Yeah, we can work
Just-
it out if you wanna do that.
Just so the board understands, I do have to contact the state tomorrow. That's the obligation that I have.
Well, maybe with some of the recommendations members have, maybe that might give us some savings, and we'll see what happens, but, I mean, can't.
All right, well, the next item on the agenda then is the
We do, so tuck 'em in
the revised budget approval. So are we moving it, or are we going to discuss it now?
Discuss it now.
Yes, if we discuss it now, we can bring up some ideas.
Let's go. Let's make it happen.
Okay. Who wants to start? I'll go first. All right, where did I lose it? Okay.
Yes, that was
Right.
amended. Sheet.
Well,
Okay. But it's,
So we're talking about the budget?
Talking about the budget.
we're talking about the budget.
all right, well, Madam Chair, if we're looking for ideas here, I still hold firmly, or are you gonna talk about, you got a budget you wanna give us, or?
We discussed the budget. That's what he brought up on
All
the
right.
board earlier.
All right, well, one of the comments I'd like to say, and I'd still like to stick to with what I said, is to push up the elimination of the assistant principal at the high school. That position is already vacant, so it's not going to affect somebody getting laid off prior to us hiring somebody, only for a year. I'd also like to move also make a motion that the adult ed manager position also be eliminated, since we don't really have an adult ed over there. So, remember that's my two items.
We have an adult.
We got an adult education program, or do we have community high?
We have an adult education program.
How many people do we have in adult ed program?
How many FTE?
Yes.
We always hit the cap. Our cap is 35 FTE, and then we also receive federal funding. Most of our adult ed programming is done off-site, and it's all planned to be off-site this year. We have a partnership with Wayne County Community College where we'll be hosting our GED and adult ed high school completion courses. They were conducted at Merriman Center, but for obvious reasons, we had to find alternative locations for those programs. But the adult education program that the manager oversees is, in fact, it's 100% grant funded. That does not come out, there is not one penny that comes out of general fund, K-12 K-12 general fund.
So all that person's salary and benefits come out of the grant, you're saying?
That is correct. The only portion that doesn't is, I believe it's about 6% that goes to support latchkey. But that's because she's providing latchkey services for the district, But 96% of that, salary, benefits, everything for that position, and all of the instructional costs, everything is right in the adult education budget.
Can that money be used other places too?
It cannot. If we don't use the money, it has to go back.
Okay. Do we apply for that each year?
Yes. There's two grants. There's a Section 107 grant, which comes directly from the state of Michigan. And then we also apply for the WIA grant, which flows through Michigan, but it is a federal grant. Both of those are for adult learners only. That's 20 and over.
And we apply for that every year, and when do we find out we get that grant?
We've gotten it every year. I've been here for 13 years, and we had it before then as well. Actually, we added the WIA grant to it about 5 years ago.
But when do we find out each year that we get that we're awarded that grant?
I'm not.
Like August?
Every year we reapply for it. It's a reoccurring grant.
Okay.
If there was an indication from the state that that grant would no longer be renewed, then we would have found out about that long ago.
So do you want me to read the motion for this? Yeah. Do we have more to add to this motion, or is this motion with those two things right now?
Which ones were they? The manager?
I'd say I'll make it just to stick with the assistant principal right now, then we'll look at some other ones.
Okay. Assistant principal.
Talked about being blindsided earlier, and we put the administrator back in the building again to be able to manage those students over there. Again, I can't reiterate enough that these types of cuts aren't going to get us to our goal when you start talking about $2.75 million. We keep flip-flopping. And you talked about putting people's lives on hold. It's the same thing. We're doing the same thing.
I don't really think the assistant principal is putting somebody's life on hold. There's nobody in that position right now, Ms. Funderburg.
But there
The
have
position
been
is
people
open.
that have interviewed for that too.
Well,
We posted it, and again, as a board, we said we wanted to put it back. So,
as a board, they said transportation and custodial maintenance was going to be 14-15, and as a board, we moved that up to 13-14. Correct?
True.
Okay, thank you.
Well, who's doing the work right now, the assistant principal?
We have a sub. We do. We have a sub.
A sub?
The community high school is breaking even though now. We do have enough to cover their transportation.
Outgrown that space already.
They really have.
This is jam-packed. They're trying to
It was
find
60
places
was
to
the
put
break and
bodies.
even point?
For the current staffing that we had, we just added another staff to it because their FTE count
It's higher.
is
So
higher.
what's the student count now?
90?
The student count is 90.
90, and the breaking even point was what?
It was 60.
But you said you added a new staff member.
We added another staff member to it.
So we're still at 60 students to break even?
No, 90 students. So what we estimate is 30 students for a teacher. So we added another teacher because we added 30 more students than what our
So right now
break-even
we're
point
breaking
was.
even, is what you're
Yes,
saying?
we are continuing to break even.
I have a question. We have you said we have somebody who's subbing in that spot now. Is that something that plausible that you could keep that sub for the whole year, or what
how-
does the money, how does that money break out?
It would not be a savings to the district, but it's possible if that's what the board wants us to
That's a
explore.
cost.
There'd have to be some kind of savings. What's a sub make versus a principal?
Right.
The
There's gotta be
sub,
some kind of savings.
the sub makes the step one of the
Oh.
AP, whatever their per diem is.
Is it a teacher?
No, it's a retired administrator.
Are they through that ed staff program, or are they bought through by the
This is a
district?
retired employee, so they can go through our system without additional cost to the district. That's where the board would receive the savings, is in the MIPSR's costs. But I would also have to check with the state, because there are rules as to how much a retired person
Yeah,
can
can
make
make.
before you have to start reporting them as a full-time employee and paying MIPSR's on them.
So right now, if it's a retired person, we're saving the cost for health, because that's already covered under retirees, and we're saving the cost for retirement.
But they can only make a third of their salary, I
Right,
believe.
at this time, but if we wanted that person to stay in the position for the whole
They
period of
probably
time,
can't do it.
they can't. I mean, they wouldn't be able to. They'd have to give up their health, and they'd give up their pension.
Going back with custodial staff, we have 18 of them?
16.
How many?
16 custodial for maintenance. That's what, I'm pretty sure you said
Just
earlier.
20 that person supervises? Mm-hmm. I mean, why can't our custodial staff be, obviously they gotta be broken up right now in the schools. Why can't they fall under the jurisdiction of the principal, or do they? I still think, like, ways back when I went to school, in elementary school, I had the same guy all the time. Never seen different maintenance or custodial people. It was the same two people that worked. Never went to another building. And do our custodial staff travel around, or are they stuck at one building? And why couldn't we take the 16 through the 4 elementary schools and the 1 middle school and 1 high school and divide them up and let them work under the jurisdiction of the principal and work it out with the union somehow? Is that feasible? You know what I'm saying? And we have principals that are bosses.
They do, I mean, the principals do oversee them. There's like a joint, the day-to-day, I need so-and-so to come do this. When they do their evaluations, they do it together, but the business, the maintenance and operations is, there's bigger plans than just what that building needs are. So they strategize the department itself, and forgive me, I'm not the business manager, so I'm trying to speak as elegantly as I possibly can. But that department, in order for us to secure the most amount of savings, has to be a department that's, run consistently across the district.
I mean, it's just hard. I mean, we only got, what, 4 or 5 maintenance guys?
We have 4.
It just seems like you can almost run yourself and just put one guy to say, here's the jobs today. Hey, you're going to this building, you're doing this, you're doing that, instead of paying someone over $100,000 to tell them that. I don't understand that one. And if we can put all the custodial under the principal's cares, if they're already in that supervision role with them and saying, hey, I need you to do that, if you had the custodial people assigned to the school itself and they're not leaving, they know what they're doing. They're doing Wick School, they're doing Rommel, they're doing the middle school, they're doing the high school. They don't have to worry about, I'm at Wick School today, I'm at Rommel tomorrow, now I'm working for another principal tomorrow. If we branch those people out and stick them at one school, and we just got to worry about 4 maintenance guys, Why can't they report here to the?
Custodians do have school year assignments, and they are assigned to a building. There are 2 custodians that we have to split for 1 hour out of their workday to cover this office as well as Corey Elementary. But everybody else has a school year assignment, so they're not moving. The maintenance guys are definitely on the move.
How
Okay,
many
so if
people?
they're not moving, then why does it, we need that guy, then how's he managing 20 people then? And what's he doing then if they're not moving and they're inside a building where the principal can have the eagle eye? I don't understand that. What's he doing that if they're in that building all day long? Is he popping in, making sure they're doing their job, or is the principal just as competent to say, hey, you're not cleaning this room, or get over here and clean this room, and, you know, I need this mopped? I mean, and if you're a custodian, I think you would know your job, wouldn't you? That's what I don't understand. I mean, we only have 20 people, and 4 guys are probably manageable themselves to know what they're going to do the night before and the next day. And if you got a custodian in the school, let them fall under the principal.
You said the business director oversaw transportation when we didn't have a supervisor. How many employees was that? Do you recall?
About 50.
About 50. So since we've just eliminated 50 positions, plus considering now that we eliminated the secretary back there and along with the supervisors, so what's that, about 52? And we've got 20. Why don't we take the 20 people and then put them into HR to be supervised by the HR?
If
And eliminate the
whatever
direct-
the pleasure of the board is, I'm sure administration will do whatever it is that you ask, but I have to bring us back around to the dollar amount savings. So changing how we manage and how we utilize our staff is,
I'm looking at
we can
eliminating
certainly do that.
$100,000, that's all. I'm looking
down
at
with that.
So
putting that
the-
on part of the ball we're kicking back.
So the savings that,
100,000.
I think you want. So the savings that we're talking about, the annual savings for maintenance and operations is almost $750,000 a year.
I understand that.
We're talking about the 13-14 year though, so it's less.
It's about almost $500,000 for the 13-14 year.
Okay.
The annual savings going 14-15 forward is about $750,000. So.
You know, one of the things that really aggravate me about some of the things in maintenance and operations here is how the supplies are bought and the price that we spend for some of the supplies. Because quite honestly, some of the things that I've seen and heard, and you can look at the receipts to validate this, some of this material and items that we're getting, we definitely need to be looking for new bidders. And some of the stuff from our local vendors right here in our own community can supply some of the products a whole lot cheaper. Okay, and I know some of this firsthand because I've actually seen price tags on something at times when I've been in different buildings. And I'm like, why are we paying $8 for a putty knife? And when I can go to the dollar store and buy the same putty knife. Okay, so.
Yeah.
I definitely think the bidding of maintenance and cleaning supplies definitely need to be looked at severely. If an administration doesn't want to do it, I'll be more than happy to take on the job if you want me to. But we definitely need to be looking for some new bidders on that.